and thank you for being here. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Mayor Board of Aldermen for November the 16th, 2021. The first thing that we will do tonight is adopt our agenda. I have several changes for you. At number 9, I would ask you to change from authorized appointments to the tree board to announce vacancies on the tree board again. We have several, but we have 2 positions to fill, so we are still going to try to get a few more applicants to indicate that they might be interested. And then at number 25, we are going to remove number 25. We are going to remove number 8. And then I have 2 additions. At 29A, I would ask you to add discuss purchase of a ride-on broom sweeper for development services.
Glad you had the sweeper there, the ride-on broom.
Well, I mean broom,
yeah.
The witch is gonna ride one. We'll let you guess who that might be. So, job has been taken. For development services for the street department. And then, oh, thank you. Okay. Sorry, my mic was not on. I did not realize it. Thank you. And then at 31A, I'm going to ask you to add discuss safety closure of sidewalk on the west side of South Lamar. So that is it for the changes, I believe. Ashley, is that it for you?
And changing number 38 from an adjournment to a recess.
Yes.
Since we'll be recessing to meet on the 29th at 1.
Perfect. Any other department head have a change? If not, then I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Jason Bailey is on this call. He has sick children, so he did not want to infect the rest of us, and we appreciate that. And Jason, we appreciate you being online. And Alderman Atkinson is coaching the middle school basketball team against Lafayette right now. So, you know, again, that is a good reason to miss. So we had an amazing weekend in Oxford. It was just great. It really couldn't have gotten any better with the beautiful lights on, and the Rebels got another win, and they showed our snow globe town on ESPN, and we've gotten so much great coverage. And so I just want to say thank you to Mike Grant and Greg Pinion and Rob Neely and our building and grounds crews and our utilities crews, and Visit Oxford for helping us pull off the Christmas vacation canopy turn on, and Lane Kiffin for being here to do that. And it was just a great weekend, and I think demonstrated to the world why ESPN named us the best college town in America. In other good news, Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann came last week and was generous with his time and stood out in the cold with us on Highway 7 in front of Northeast Mississippi Regional Center, and saw the traffic issues that we have firsthand. And I can assure you that he understands our challenges and is helping us to work towards some funding models to get Highway 7, both the safety and capacity issues addressed. I attended a Mississippi Competes vision session on campus on Friday, November the 5th, and it was a really cool opportunity to discuss how we can advance Mississippi's competitiveness, particularly through careful investment, leveraging our resources in higher education. There were business leaders from across the nation at this visioning session. There were actually 40 of us there, and so we got to have some really good dialogue and conversations, and I do believe that the ideas shared and the excitement that was generated at this meeting is going to produce some very positive coalitions. I participated in a town hall meeting with ASB students last week. I see some of those folks here in the audience, so thank y'all for being here, and thank you for having me for a town hall meeting. It is always great to hear from students about the city issues that you all find important, to hear your ideas. As I told y'all then, and have said to every student group I've talked to for years, you're a critical part of this community, and it's always a great opportunity to get to remind them that they aren't just students at Ole Miss, but the residents of Oxford. And so we value your opinions and your input, and we thank you. We are seeing a surge of COVID numbers in other states. We've not experienced a large increase in Lafayette County, but we do encourage everyone to take precautions now that it's getting cold and everything's moving inside. All events are moving back inside. We expect that we will see an increase in cases. This morning, we had a total of 8 people that were COVID positive in the hospital, 3 of those in ICU. So we are not seeing numbers in the hospital that are frightening. We are still looking at the number of positive cases each day. We also have looked at the wastewater numbers. We are seeing those be consistently higher than what our positive test numbers are demonstrating. I think what that tells us is there are a whole lot of people that just aren't getting tested. There are people that are getting their tests at Walgreens or at different places, and so we just don't find that to be a really good measuring stick anymore. So we are sticking to looking at hospital numbers, and although there's nothing to do right now, I just tell you that to say we continue to look at this every day. So I didn't want you to think that it's fallen off our radar. Our sales tax numbers are in, and they continue to move in a very positive direction. Our sales tax came in at $1,066,835.23. That is up 2% from last month. It's up 21% from last year. Our 2% food and beverage tax came in at $362,368.93. That's up 9% from last month and up 30% from last year. And our hotel motel came in at $45,613.34. It slipped just a little. It's down 4% from last month, but it's up 139% from last year. The Holly Jolly holidays are just around the corner, and there are going to be 12 days of ice skating at the Old Armory Pavilion, December 1st through the 12th. There's going to be so much fun going on. Real ice this time. Last time it was not real ice. It was ice skating, but not on real ice. And we are super excited that the Old Armory Pavilion will be converted into an ice skating rink, and we hope that you will come and skate between December the 1st through the 12th. There will be caricature drawings for the whole family, carriage rides. Santa will be at Visit Oxford on the 2 Saturdays, December 4th and 11th. On Sunday, December the 5th, Visit Oxford is hosting a live ice carving demonstration at 3, which I think will be super cool. And there are going to be food trucks and the yak ornament auction, all kinds of fun stuff. So go to visitoxfordms.com/hollyjolly and check out all of the events. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Rick Addy, who is going to recognize some very special guests that we have tonight.
Let the track team know.
Hey, Coach Patton. How are you? Y'all can just come line up across,
Come
or
nope,
up
right
here.
out front. Nice try. And give the parents a second to get in. Just wanted to say congratulations to our cross-country 6A champions for the state of Mississippi. That happened 2 weeks ago, and I'll read off who all of our. Coach Gardner is on the left over here. Coach Patton, well, sorry, on your right, and on your left is Coach Patton. Sorry, I have to look at it as a camera. And our participants, Luke Johnson, he was first overall
Raise your
in
hand,
the
Luke.
state. In 6A, first overall. That's 2 years in a row that Oxford has had first overall. Last year was Chase. This year was Luke Johnson. Ethan Knight, raise your hands. Make sure everybody knows.
That's right.
There you go. Matthew
What you getting
Singletary.
credit?
Bailey, Andrew Heath, and Aiden. And again, 6A state champions. First time, our last state was 2016. Is that right, Coach? Yes, sir. Right. So just want to say congratulations again. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. Congratulations, guys. Thank you for representing your community so well. All right, I will ask the board to authorize the approval of the minutes of the recess meeting on October 21st, 25th, and the regular meeting on November 2nd.
I move we approve the minutes of the regular meeting. October 2nd.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ask you to authorize the approval of accounts for all city departments.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, at number 9, I would like to announce, as I did before changing this, that we have vacancies on the tree board. We have had several applicants that we're excited about. What did I do?
Consent agenda.
Oh,
Make a
well, there you
motion to
go.
approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda. I'm moving fast up here, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, wow. Number 9 is to announce vacancies on the tree board. If anyone is interested in serving on the tree board, we would ask you to send a letter of interest to to City Hall at oxfordms.net. I will ask you now to authorize some appointments to our Affordable Housing Commission. We are really excited that we're now at a point where we can make these appointments to a formal housing commission. We are moving forward with the great foundation that has been put in place by our Affordable Housing Task Force that was led by Judy Daniel. And we now, as this board knows, have the ordinance in place that allows us to appoint ex officio members as well as commission members. So here is the slate of commission appointments that I would recommend. Tisha Sanders, who will be representing the Oxford Housing Authority. Stuart Rutledge, who is an affordable housing developer and has volunteered to serve as the co-chair. Brooke Worthy, part of LOU Homes, Inc. She has volunteered to serve as a co-chair. Lance Hickman with Bancorp South. Laura Martin with the McLean Institute at the university. She's currently with LOU Homes, but I think she's about to roll off that. Marilyn Barnes, who's the director of AVID for the Oxford School District. Janice Antonow, former alderman. Alonzo Hilliard, a member of the Black Community Investment Group. And Josh Sissel, who is a local property manager. I would also, let's go ahead and vote on those commission members, and then I will tell you, I'll make a recommendation on ex officio. Are there any comments, or is there a motion to appoint those members to this commission?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Also, I would recommend as ex officio members, Donna Zampella, representing our Oxford University Transit, as we know that having transportation to these affordable housing developments is critical in their success, and Duncan Gray, who would be representing the Oxford School District. We are also still awaiting an appointee from the Lafayette School District. So if I could have a motion to appoint Donna Zampella and Duncan Gray as ex officio members.
So moved.
Thank you. Brooke Worthy and Stuart Rutledge. Yes, there's Brooke in the back. Just wanted to say thank you so much for your generosity with your time and expertise and agreeing to co-chair this very important commission. And want to say thank you to Judy, who is here, who will continue to shepherd this effort. And we know that this project is going to continue to be successful. So thank you all, and thank you, board, for those appointments. Now we will recognize the Oxford Park Commission for their MRPA awards from the 2021 State Conference. Seth?
I've got Jamie with me, and she's back here with the actual awards, in case y'all think that I may just be blowing smoke or something. I can't show them.
We want proof, Seth. We want proof.
Well, we have it, for sure. So I want to go over a few things that we're able to do this year. Recreation Programming Award of Merit, single program, brand new program, the Oxford Park Commission. We put in youth wrestling. Of course, you know, youth wrestling, it's not something that's, you know, in the high schools or whatever. They're working on that, I think, around, but we started that program this year and had over 50 kids throughout a couple of different sessions come in, so we're very happy with that program starting it. The next one was a citywide swim meet, which is different than our competitive swim team that's here. We only took rec kids, and so at the end of their 6-8 week session, they had a swim meet that involved 48 kids coming in. But it wasn't just Oxford kids coming in. We had some from Columbus and as far away.
Great.
And get our expert up here. Mr. Morgan can kind of talk a little bit more about that as a STAR student, as our Arts, Humanities, and Programming Award of Merit, our Social and Instructional Dance award that we got for a series of awards and things that we did. Latin Shine, Foxtrot, Swing, Two-Step, The Hustle, belly dancing, Bollywood dancing, and then and what I showed y'all, I will butcher it, BHARATANATA YAM.
I'm not sure that was any better, but,
Yeah, that's right.
but good hustle.
But classical Indian dance that we did. So, you know, just a series of dances that we did through the year. So every program that we do is obviously not kids program. That's a focused program that's with adults. And the last one I want to tell you all about, obviously it wasn't completely, it wasn't a Park Commission starting award or something that we did. It was from the city. It was the Bo Phillips Design of Merit Award. Mark Lee's here, and I'm proud he's here, but the North Lamar Pocket Park won the award for the Design of Merit this year. So we're definitely, we came away with 4 awards from this year's
That is
conference.
great.
And so we're really excited about that.
Well, as you should be. And I know it takes a whole team to pull all of those things off and a great staff. And so we thank all of our Park Commission staffers. And thank you, Seth, for setting the bar high and for applying for these awards and for making our community look so good. We appreciate it. All right, next on our agenda is to discuss the recommendation of the proposed splash pad and type of water system.
Absolutely.
We
So-
talked about this some during our budget meeting, so we'll let you catch us up on where we are.
All right, so the Park Commission Board, at our last board meeting, recommended a couple different things that, you know, obviously we need y'all to look at. One is the location, of the splash pad that money was set aside for us, to be able to put. And the location is in the skate park, located between the playground and Skipwith Cottage there, so we still have all the infrastructure. You know, but when we looked at every park and what we had and infrastructure that was in place, this comes back to where we believe is the best location for it. We hope to in the future be able to add some of the different things we're going in different parts of the city, but for right now, and everything that it offers and the amount of, the least amount of infrastructure that we need, that would be the location for that, and we can go into it as y'all see fit. There's a questions and answers here from 2 different playground companies, splashbound companies or whatever, that we sent them and just wanted them to tell us what they recommended, what they would like to see, or what cities are building and the pros and cons of each system. So the biggest is a recirculated water system or a freshwater system. Of course, you can see the pros and cons that they list. With that, biggest pro of a recirculating system is you don't have a monthly water bill that's going to be really high. Negative of having a recirculated system at that point is it's going to, at the very base, it's going to be about $75,000 more to be able to have that. So, you know, right now we've got around $175,000 that is ready to be able to build a splash pad. So, you know, just by having a $75,000 system, we're looking at a $100,000 splash pad, which is doable. And, you know, the Park Commission has said that we'll make sure we get, you know, that it is a very nice system. But that's, the board did authorize me to come in and say they wanted the skate park and then to go with this recirculating system.
Okay, so we probably need to vote on those 2 things separately, just for confirmation. I think everybody's supportive of the location that the Park Commission has chosen, and I think it's great that it's already got the bathrooms in the parking lot and all of those things that would certainly take the price up. So is there a motion to confirm that the location of the splash pad can be at the skate park location?
Motion made. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you know, when we talked about the water system when we talked about it briefly during our budget sessions, you know, we had most of the feedback from the board was we really like the freshwater option, even though it's more expensive on a monthly basis. I know it's much less expensive on the front end, but just with cleanliness and sanitation issues, you know, that was the way we were leaning. So I'd love to hear from the board about any of your input at this point.
The question I have is, as I look through it, you recirculated, you've got to have chemicals put in every day. You've got to have somebody there to clean it every day. You've got to have somebody there to fix it I mean, you're saying it's going to be more expensive in the long run to do the, not recirculated, but the fresh, but by the time you hire somebody to do all this other, it might not be. Have you looked at the 2 figures of what it's going to take to put somebody in place to take care of this place?
Well, Jamie, as our aquatic director, that would be, as far as a daily basis, at least Monday through Friday. That's what she has to do. And then when we have, outside of that, we have other lifeguards and stuff. If she works on weekends, she would be responsible for it. or we would have a lifeguard that was already coming in to work at the pool that day that would go, the lifeguard manager would be the one that would go in and just.
Do we have to have an on-site lifeguard?
No, this is zero depth, it's either lifeguard.
I didn't think so, but
Yeah.
it's like you,
He just means like a lifeguard from the city
To
pool
do it.
would come over and add that to their responsibilities. You know, to me, you know, just articles that you read about splash pads and similar venues, the, you know, recirculated water just kind of grosses me out.
The board, to tell you.
and you're gonna be there a lot.
You couldn't pay me, but I mean, you feel like the recirculated water is, I mean, because of all the chemicals and what have you,
The board recommended that.
Yeah.
My recommendation to the board was a freshwater. My board recommended, going recirculating system, and they cited the cost of the monthly water bill with that.
of course, it's not year round.
No, it's,
What,
4
8
months,
months?
5
Oh, you think that few? Okay.
I mean, by the time it gets warm enough,
And didn't we say in that work session that, that water could be captured? It's not just pure runoff.
If you use the freshwater system,
Uh-huh.
it could be captured if you put in a system to capture, use it for irrigation or something.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about a lot of water to use for irrigation for that area, so you got to have.
When it doesn't just spray all day long, it's only comes on, I guess, when people are, is it motion activated? Yeah, so it's not just a constant. Okay, board, so give Seth some direction. Not everyone at once, though. We think.
I'm thinking we ought to go fresh water, but put a holding tank for irrigation that is not hold it all, but whatever is reasonable to hold, and then once that holding tank gets full, then the rest of it goes to wastewater.
With the reduced times, meaning the monthly 4 to 5 months a year, I think of fresh water. I'm just partial to it anyway.
I mean, the city garden is right in that area. Seems like that'd be a good place to push that water over for irrigation on that.
Okay.
What's the difference in the price, you know, off the top of your head?
they told me, and it may not be in here, but in hand conversations, face-to-face conversations, that recirculated system off the top is at least $75,000 more. If you were to have
But
the
that's
same
upfront,
splash
not
pad-
per year?
No, that's upfront, that's your.
It's
bill.
upfront, but when you compare, the one cost I'm uncertain of to compare is what the chemicals and the upkeep of the recycled.
Well, and you
Cost
don't know how long the
versus-
recycle's gonna last you if we have. to
Well, and you
put
don't,
another
and you
one.
don't know how much water you're gonna use, because it's gonna be based on the number of people that use the facility. So I hear a few for fresh water. I need a motion for us to.
Is there a, quick question?
Yeah.
Is there a way that we go freshwater right now, we realize it's gonna be used more than what we think it's going to be used, and switching back over?
I have had conversations with that, I don't think,
Bart says no.
I don't think that's gonna be,
Okay.
be a wise thing.
Just had to ask, okay.
But if you put in an irrigation holding tank at a certain amount, it seems like if you decided to go recirculating, that would be your holding tank that you could recirculate out of at a future date.
I don't know that you
I
have
think
your pipes and
If
your
we,
pumps
I'll
and-
You
say
either
this,
put
I'll
the-
say this, Mark, if we make a motion on fresh water, I'd like to talk about that at another time, because we don't know
Let's just
what
do
it's
fresh.
gonna, what's
I'll
it
make a
gonna
motion
cost.
for fresh water, and when they do the
Well,
bids,
we have an estimate of the number of gallons. Of
No, I'm talking
usage.
about, we don't know what it's gonna cost to make some kind of water tank and irrigation
I
system and
think that
everything
is ought to be an
else.
option in the bids.
Yeah,
So I'll make a motion for fresh water with an option to add a irrigation holding tank.
no big kahuna here, it's gonna be fresh water.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll second.
All right, any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Seth. Request permission for the Oxford Animal Resource Center to use the fenced area in front of City Hall for Santa's Pictures with Pups, December the 4th from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. Good idea, Kelly.
Yes, ma'am, from 11 to 3 by the Williams Faulkner outside in front. So just in case dogs get loose, they can run right there.
So
Yep.
moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Consider an appeal of the Planning Commission denial of case 2806 Yellow Leaf Construction for request for a variance from section 5762, buffers for property located at 1016 Molly Bar Road, further identified as PPIN 5030.
Didn't we just let you go?
Welcome, Gray.
So this appeal is for the request of property owner Yellow Leaf Construction and the applicant's engineer Joe Moore. The subject property is a heavily wooded 1.46 acre parcel south of Volleyball Road and west of Oxford Depot Trail. At the October Planning Commission meeting, Yellow Leaf Construction requested their approval of variance to the 50-foot buffer requirements between any development and walking biking trail. The applicant's
Is it on?
variance
Can I hand him that one?
request. Wait, can you hear me? So the applicant requested to minimize the buffer from 50 feet to 25 feet. The applicant stated that they believe a hardship exists due to the narrowness of the lot and that the buffer eliminates the full utilization of the property for development. So the 7 townhome structures will be a total of 11 units. Each of the units proposed are within the required 50-foot buffer. The applicant referenced a buffer variance that was received south of this property to Oxford Elementary School in 2018. The proposed elementary school structure was built no closer to the depot trail than the former school structure was on the property, whereas this property has no precedent for interference with the buffer. The school site had much fewer trees and a large portion of the area adjoining the trail contained a recreation field, whereas this site is completely covered with trees. Planning staff already sees many obstacles with the current proposal, including the need for a request for a special exception for 3-story buildings. The fire truck turnaround is inaccessible without this variance, and there are questions about tree preservation and mitigation for the heavily forested site. Staff believes that the site constraints and code issues triggered by the current site layout have been self-created and are economically driven, not the result of an unnecessary hardship. And staff recommended denial of the variance. Since the Planning Commission meeting, I've also got in the report the meeting discussion, and at the October Planning Commission meeting, Commissioner Johnson made a motion to deny the request, and it passed 6-1. And since the meeting on November 10th, our Pathways Commission also had a meeting, and they unanimously voted 6-0 against supporting the appeal of this variance with 1 recusal. The commission discussed the potential negative impact such a variance would have on the tree canopy, the environment of the affected trail, and the people who use this trail. And the applicant's engineer is here if you have any other questions.
All right. Come on up.
This one?
I know, just take your pick. I'm not sure any of them are working, the screens aren't working, we're really,
Joey Moore with Williams Engineering. So like Grace said, our belief is the property is unique because of its narrowness. 110 foot wide is approximately what we're working with. The 50-foot buffer along the trail, is taking nearly 40% of the developable area. The property's zoned indoor, which means that it could fit 13 units on it. We're proposing 11. Besides the narrowness of the property, we also think it's a unique location because the actual trail property has 35 foot of trees on it. So if you add the 35 foot to our 25 foot, we're looking at 60 foot of trees between the actual trail and what we're asking for. The only thing that, I'd like to add is that last week, the same variance was asked for on a different project along the same trail. They asked for the full 50 foot and was granted. So we're asking for 25 foot, but I'm here for any conversations or thoughts, or, we're open to the layout if you guys feel like the houses should be on the other side of the property. But with the fire department issues, the road widths, sidewalk requirements, the drives being so far from the property line, we're very limited here to what we can do. So.
all right, does anybody have any questions for Joey? This will take a motion by a board member to overturn or to grant the appeal of the Planning Commission's denial of this case. So are there any comments, or is there, or any questions?
Joey, on the code talks about 50 feet from the property line, or is it, are you talking about 60 feet from the property line or 60 feet from the trail?
It's 50 foot from the property line,
Right,
so.
so you've got 35 on their property from the trail to the property line.
That's correct.
And then you're gonna have an additional 25.
That's correct.
Okay.
You know, and we can add additional screening or whatever's needed, but, you know, with the, that's just where, that's where we're at. And, you know, like the planning department said, to meet fire code, we've got to put a fire truck turnaround in there. And no matter what, some kind of variance has got to be granted to get the fire truck turnaround in there. So in order for the property to be developed, some kind of variance has got to be granted.
All right, any other questions? All right, it would take a motion from a board member to overturn the appeal. Calling for a motion. All right, hearing none. Sorry, the appeal is not overturned.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joey. Request permission to approve the proclamation of state holidays is issued by the governor's office, declaring city offices to be closed for Thanksgiving on November 25th and 26th, on Christmas, December 23rd and 24th, and New Year's Eve, December 31st. Do I have a motion to approve that proclamation by the governor?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Man, you got back quick.
I did, I was a little late.
Amberlyn and part of her crew have been in Jackson today. Request permission to accept the reverse auction bids for equipment and trucks for the Environmental Services Department.
Okay, the first piece of equipment is for a street sweeper. The reverse auction bid came in at $283,102 to Tag Truck Center. And then the second one is to, for another baby garbage truck. And the reverse auction bid came in at $128,892 from Sansom Equipment.
How'd those come into budget numbers?
They came into our budget numbers.
Okay.
And they will be on the GO note that Ashley can explain.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll mention, just as Amberlyn's going back, that we are down employees like every other business in the country, not just our community. And we are down a lot of folks that would typically be mowing the right of way. So just ask the public to be patient with us as we are picking up trash as fast as we can. And we are also mowing grass as fast as we can. And we're going to get to it, but just ask you to be patient. We're doing it with a lot less people. And if you'd like to work for the Environmental Services Department, we have, please go to the city website and apply. All right, thank you. Second reading and public hearing on a proposed ordinance amending Chapter 118, Sections 19, 22, 23, and 25, and adding Section 33 for the designated downtown pickup locations.
Yes, Mayor, thank you for having me. There have been no changes or additions that have been added to this since the last time we read it. We did add Exhibit A, which is the map of the downtown area with the proposed locations. And that's all we have right now.
Wonderful. So this is, for the audience, the ordinance changes that amend what we've called our vehicle for hire ordinance. And it includes now the requirement for, during certain hours, a pickup location to be utilized. All right, so as this is a public hearing, is there anyone here who would like to speak regarding this ordinance?
So we opted against a third pickup place.
No,
No.
we can still do that authorization later. This was just what we have had before. Those are just the two areas that we have right now, but we can authorize a third.
Okay, I thought that's what we did.
Yeah, I thought that we were going to have a third
Without a doubt.
to propose.
Back behind City Grocery.
Well, we don't vote until the next
I know.
meeting, but yes, you're right. Yeah. All right, Zoe, go ahead.
Okay, I'm here for the insurance part about the change of the ordinance. I saw that the fees and different things were going to get lower, and I'm here tonight for understanding, so I won't be long. So the changes that was being proposed that's going to be made is that Sorry, I'm getting a little nervous, but my question is, why wasn't the insurance on the proposed to be changed? When I did a little bit of research on the Mississippi Department of Insurance, I didn't realize that the state minimum insurance is for personal vehicles is $25,000, $50,000, $25,000. Also for commercial insurance, it's $10,000, $25,000, $10,000, which is less than the state minimum. And I want to know, like, if involved in an accident, if someone has a non-taxi, if involved in an accident, how is it, different from, how is it different from if a regular person is carrying passengers with seven people in there and a
Because they're not using our city streets for business.
Okay.
And so we are required to have things in place for people who are utilizing city streets as a business.
Okay.
Okay, it's why we have permits if people have to do, want to sell things outdoors or what have you on city property. We are obligated to oversee any business that's being done, similar to our outdoor dining and the licenses that are there. If it's business happening on city property, then we have the responsibility of putting those parameters in place.
Okay, so as it stands, so the ordinance is 100, 300, which is required, so it's nothing.
Well, that is what the board has, we've talked about this. I know that we've brought it up at least twice during my first term, and the board has analyzed and has every time said that our goal is to protect the people that are getting in those vehicles, and that is what the board has believed to be a reasonable amount, is why it's still in there. Any board member want to address that? I think
I've always thought we were being a little punitive. I would be open to looking at less, but I know that last time I said that nobody else was. So
it protects you. It protects you. And understanding that if you're going to, if I'm in a car, I don't usually have 8 people, and that's a random number, let's just go 5 people in my car every day. That is an occurrence that happens, but a taxi driver is commonly carrying more than one person, and so if you are in an accident, which you're at fault, that liability insurance protects you, and I would think that you would be wanting as much protection as possible when you are carrying multiple people, because if you don't have enough insurance, you will personally be liable.
For sure, but shouldn't I, as the business owner, to decide what limits that for my company?
Well, you should also, yes, that is one point, but we also have to think about the person riding in there. If you don't have enough insurance, where are they to go? In other words, let's say you, and again, I have no idea of your financial wherewithal, but if you're in an accident where 5 people, and let's just go with half of them just die in an accident.
For sure.
I'm going to assume that any lawsuit that comes about, you're not financially prepared to take on, and I don't think many people are.
For sure.
In that case. So it protects you, but it also protects your driver or your passengers, allowing them, again, you might be the most careful driver in the world, but things happen.
I understand that, and I don't agree with myself personally. I wouldn't have 10,000, 50,000, 10,000, or whatever. I would have more coverage than that. But, I've talked to different insurance companies and different things like that. It's just like, for instance, like Jackson, 100 across the board. But again, this is Oxford, Mississippi. It's not like Memphis or Atlanta or something like that. I don't have many groups, like you said, 7 to 5 people. Sometimes it's 1, 2, maybe 3 people max. So I don't, I understand exactly what you're saying, but, things have changed. Things have changed a whole lot. So, I was just trying to see, if something could be done about it, if I have the limits that my insurance lady think that I should have, or what I feel comfortable with.
Your personal insurance doesn't cover you. You have
For
to
sure,
have
for sure.
commercial
For
insurance.
sure, just commercial. So
Right.
commercial insurance, long if I have commercial insurance, at least 100,000 across the board, you know, I think that is enough for my company.
So Zoe, you're an Uber driver as well. So when you're driving for Uber, I guess Uber's covering your insurance. What are their?
Uber requires the personal, it's 50,125. That's what Uber requires for, if you have someone in your car outside the app.
But then Uber is then providing insurance at a higher level than that when you're on the clock driving
For sure.
for Uber, correct?
For sure.
So,
1 million.
yeah, I mean, so it, you know,
Just looking at umbrella policy.
well, we
1 million
are,
single limit policy.
yeah, but I'm just saying what we are requiring is way less than what an Uber umbrella policy is covering. I mean, I mean, it sounds a lot if you look at the state's bare minimum, but if you look at other, you know, technology-based taxi companies, it's actually way less than
Yeah, for sure. And that,
you're getting if you're in an Uber and have an accident.
and that's designed for, like, you know, and I understand they're they're worth $85 billion, and it's just to protect them also, but, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
We're not really, I mean, you said to protect them, we're not worried about them.
For sure.
Yeah, we're just worried about our customers that are in there, making sure they're covered on the back end if something does happen. So.
Yeah, I do not think liability for car crashes value has gone down since this board considered this. I want to say 6 or 8 years ago, Bart may remember back
We've
when I.
considered it since then too. 6 or 8 years ago when we did the initial, and then Zoe actually came and presented this for a change 2 years ago, maybe.
And we
2 or 3.
we looked at other cities, we looked at other towns
We
in
did.
in the state, and we asked a number of different insurance providers. So that number took you all a long time to come up with. It was not arbitrary, and if anything, it is aged. It is not. It hasn't become overvalued over time.
Right. Okay. Anything
right.
else?
That's it.
Thank you, Zoe. Hi there.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good. Will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'll start out by introducing myself. My name is Jeremiah Wells, and I've been a lifelong resident of Lafayette and Yellow County and 6 years in the city of Oxford. I'll just go ahead and tell you this is not something I do regularly, so I'm going to try to get through it the best I can.
Well, you're just fine.
All right, and I'll try to wrap it up as quickly as
No,
possible.
you're good. You're good.
You may remember me from the previous meetings about this ordinance back in June or July. And that meeting, as I recall, it was opened up with excitement about the tax revenue that had been coming into the city of Oxford after the pandemic. This past week's meeting, or actually 2 weeks ago, meeting was also opened up with excitement about revenue brought in by football games and the close of the pandemic. This meeting was also opened the same way. I'd like to remind this panel that the city of Oxford is not the only business or person who had to survive the pandemic. Many of the Uber and Lyft drivers are displaced pandemic workers, myself included, which struggled through the pandemic just as the city of Oxford has. Just as the city is very excited about their increased revenue, so are the business owners, including independent contractors as myself. We are just now starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel thanks to football season, and just when things seem to be going in the right direction, we're thrown a curveball by the city of Oxford once again. And we're forced to fight for our livelihood. The last time this was brought up, we were in the middle of the Jackson Avenue expansion. Now it's brought back up in the middle of football season. Do you seriously believe there won't be any traffic issues with or without Uber when we close the main exit of the square or we have a winning football season? In the previous meeting, I tried to convey the concerns for safety for riders and students of the university, as well as the citizens of Oxford who use Uber and taxis, but apparently that fell on deaf ears. Sadly, now here we are again with the same ordinance that did not receive enough support in the previous attempts for it to be passed. So the city tables this ordinance only to be brought up again when maybe people are not paying attention or finally they found support on their side of the table. Where were these people in the past, and why can I not find a single person who even knows this is happening? I Uber every night. I actually talk about this ordinance with the passengers. None of them know this is happening. All of them, I've not found one that was in favor of it, but I'll move on. I find it funny that after these multiple attempts that this ordinance has been brought up, No one has had any issue with the dozens of vans from hotels in the square or the dozens of buses that line the streets of the square in no parking zones to pick up and drop off residents of different apartment complexes. It's also funny that these are set up for the safety of the residents, much like Uber and Lyft is set up for safety and convenience of riders. I also find it funny that in the previous meeting there was much ado about the Visit Oxford website, which is an exciting and important guide for visitors coming to Oxford. But with that, I also have to point out that the ordinance and its attempt to be passed has not been mentioned on said website, maybe because that would be a negative for visitors, and I must agree it would. The city has set up a perfect storm for young people and their ability to break the law set up for underage drinking. The culture of Oxford is totally wrapped around football and drinking. How can you expect to be able to continue to provide the perfect opportunity for underage drinking and over drinking, yet take away the ability to get home safely after putting students in that situation? Sure, the students should not be drinking, but when the entire city is wrapped around partying and football and drinking too much, that's exactly what's going to happen no matter the age. Uber and Lyft are designed for safety and convenience. The moment the convenience of being picked up exactly where you're located is taken away, you'll have an entire population of people who will simply walk to their cars and drive drunk. I've driven long enough to know that when Uber and taxis are not convenient and there's not enough supply, people will ride with other random people, whether they are drunk or sober. We are dealing with a population that are not quite adults and not quite children. They will continue to make mistakes unless we provide them with reasonable options that make sense. As an Uber driver, I've picked up people trying to go home from work. I've picked up people who need rides to the emergency room. I've picked up people who had to arrange the funeral for a loved one who was killed in an automobile accident. In the previous meetings, I've tried to convey the facts and how this ordinance just doesn't make sense, and it doesn't provide safety to those who need to be protected in their time of need. Those facts obviously fell on deaf ears as well. So I'll try to convey the facts on what I believe the real issue that's feeding the, quote, need for this ordinance. The fact is, people are just impatient. In this day and age, people want things at the snap of a finger. We do not need to feed this so-called need to make quick trips around the square and have no wait time. The same people who have an issue with traffic being blocked on the square don't seem to understand that ride shares aren't the only traffic and are just a tiny percentile of the cars that go around the square any given night. I may not be an expert, but I believe with any amount of pedestrian traffic who willfully ignore the laws that are already set up for crossing the street and step out in front of traffic will not be stopped just because ride shares are removed from the square. I also believe that the slower the traffic on the square is, the better. The speed limit should be lowered, in my opinion. If we have people who willfully jaywalk, the best thing we can have is backed up traffic and slow-moving cars. What is the data on the number of ride shares during game days versus any other weekend? Does anybody know that? Okay. On LSU weekend, I counted myself of those that I knew were ride shares. I noticed 86 ride shares between Uber and Lyft, with 82% of those being outside the Tri-County area. Outside Ubers don't care about any ordinance. I'll be glad to sit down and explain how the app works and how this ordinance won't work in its present form. One of these huge glaring facts is the parking areas aren't designed for the amount of traffic that will be directed there, nor the number of pedestrians that will congregate there. You'll also have to stretch out the police force and many other things. The square, on the other hand, is designed for traffic and pedestrians. Sidewalks keep people corralled, at least. There are many aspects of this app that you either aren't knowledgeable of or you simply don't care because of your distaste for ride shares. As there are many aspects of this ordinance that won't work because none of you have driven ride shares, I read in the Oxford Eagle there was a group on campus that is in support of this, and I'm assuming that's this group here. I have to ask again, where were these groups when the ordinance was brought up in the past? Why suddenly do they appear, and why do they, and I quote, need to know where their ride will be? Have they ever actually used these apps? Because you can't get any better than the driver tracker that's in the palm of their hand. I'd like to tell you a little story about my life. I'd like to bring you back to January the 6th, 2009. I had just left work only about an hour before. I stopped by FNC to visit friends that had planned to take me out that night for my birthday. They were a little behind in finishing up their work, so it'd be more than an hour before we could leave, and I didn't want to wait. So I decided we would do it the following Friday, and they agreed. I was on my way home, and suddenly I realized I had not stopped for gas that morning as I had planned and wasn't sure I'd have enough to get home and back to work the next morning. So I stopped at Hilltop on Highway 7 and decided to get a little gas. I've never really been a fan of Hilltop because their gas has always been a little higher than everyone else, so I was sure only to get enough. As I remember clearly, even all these years later, I accidentally ran the pump over by 2 cents. As I left, the song Low was on the radio. It's funny how you remember these little details, but when things happen as they were about to happen, just moments after leaving the gas station, these things tend to burn in your mind. As I left Hilltop and continued toward Highway the 7 and 9 split, everything seemed fine. Just another day. Nothing bad could happen to me. I mean, after all, it's the night before my 28th birthday. I had a great job and just finished building a home with my own hands the previous November. I had no reason to think anything would happen to me as I was in the prime of my life, but as I entered the intersection, I met R.V. Hervey, a young father from Coffeyville. He was an impaired driver and never bothered to slow at the stop sign. As we met at the intersection, there was no way either of us could know how tonight would turn out. Mr. Hervey was on his way to AutoZone in his son's car to pick up a couple of parts to put on that car so his son would be able to sign with Northwest the very next day for a scholarship in baseball. His son was actually playing a basketball game that very night in Water Valley. As he and I reached the intersection, both of our lives changed completely. Mr. Hervey was killed on impact, and his family will forever be changed. I was lucky in that I had a seatbelt on and survived, but still remember every detail. I can still to this day feel the spinning around the highway and colliding with his car a second time as we both ended up in the ditch. I was instantly in pain and couldn't quite figure out what had just happened as the next hour drug on and I was removed from my vehicle. I was never allowed to look outside, and honestly, I didn't want to. I already knew from the things people were saying that his vehicle was positioned directly beside my driver door, and had I been able to look out, I would have seen his lifeless body lying in the car. I could go on and on about how this completely changed my life. Being involved in a deadly accident, it makes it even worse knowing it was an impaired driver, and it could have been 100% prevented. Typically, the impaired driver is the one who walks away. In my case, I was lucky. After some time, physically, I was fine, but it took many years to convince myself that there was nothing I could do. But even after this time, I have to wonder, what if I had waited on my friends at FNC to finish their work so that we could go on for dinner as planned? Things would have been completely different. What if I had just waited to stop for gas, or maybe even gotten more than $5? Things would have been completely different. In our day-to-day life, we never know what small, insignificant actions we take could completely change our lives. With that being said, I'd like to remind everyone that no matter what we do in life, we have to wait. We wait at the bank, we wait at work, we wait at Walmart, we wait at Kroger, we wait on lights to turn green, we wait at stop signs, we wait and we wait and we wait. We wait at chicken on a stick, and now there's something that we should talk about. We wait on the square, we wait in bars, we wait in restaurants, we waited in this meeting. Life is about waiting. We don't want to because life has become so instant. We want everything at the snap of a finger, but that's not the way life is. We wait and we wait and we wait. That's just the way it is. We wait on fire trucks, we wait on police cars, we wait on ambulances, and unfortunately, there are times we wait on helicopters in the middle of the highway to help those in need. And thankfully in the South, we still wait for funerals. We all know waiting in these situations are a necessary evil because people are in need, and I have a strong suspicion that if this ordinance is passed, we'll be waiting on far more fire trucks, ambulances, and police cars, and funerals. If I thought the only thing I had to do to help save a life was spend a few more minutes in traffic around the square and in Oxford during football games, I'd do it 100 times over. If I knew that Mr. Hervey and his family would no longer have to suffer for the loss. I fear that there will be many other people just like me who spent years trying to get over something that was obviously not my fault, but still affects you forever. All I ask is, how will this panel feel when they're woken up early one Sunday morning after a big football game and they find out that a carload of freshman students have been killed on Highway 6 after not having the ability to get a ride in a fast and convenient way? I hope that none of you have to wake up day after day and wonder, should I have just waited for a better solution or just waited on this ordinance altogether? Somehow we have forgotten the Wheaton family who lost 2 children back in 2012. We forgot Amy Ewing, that Highway 6 is named after, not to mention the scores of others killed in the area due to drunk driving that didn't get the publicity that those cases did. But worst of all, we have forgotten Officer Langley, who gave his life for the city of Oxford during a traffic stop. All of these people were victims of impaired drivers. Please, if not for me or any other rideshare or taxi company, but for those innocent people who will surely be affected by this in a deadly way, please scratch this needless and unenforceable ordinance. I'd like to leave you today with some data from a source this board has been depending on for nearly the past 2 years now, and that's the CDC. The CDC data states 30 people are killed by drunk drivers every day in this country. This doesn't even count the ones killed by cell phone use. It wouldn't shock me if that number doubled if phones were factored in. Oxford is ripe for the picking and due a tragedy when it comes to drinking and driving. Please, as a board, don't give them the keys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. I wish that I could address many things that you said. There were so much that I'm not going to remember all of them, but a few things that I can't let go unaddressed. Number one is to assume that this board has forgotten about any of those people who have died due to drunk driving because we're trying to figure out a way to get more students home safely is offensive. I knew many of the people that you listed personally, and I take personal offense to your comment. I will also say, it's my turn now. And I will also tell you that this that we are talking about didn't have anything to do with waiting. All that talk about waiting, I hear you. This isn't about waiting. This is about safety. Is what this whole, my turn. Sorry, you had your chance. I will tell you also that you've made a lot of incorrect assumptions. That if you'd asked some questions rather than making the assumptions, we could have probably gotten a lot further. Your assumptions in many cases are incorrect. To say that we are anti-rideshare is comical, really, because we have spent so much time with Uber in developing this plan. Uber has agreed that this is the best plan. They are in support of this plan, and the app will work to support that. We all have used Uber, we all have used taxis, we all have experience in that realm, and the Uber app will in fact work appropriately if this board decides to do this. To say that it falls on deaf ears also, just because decisions are made that you don't agree with doesn't mean we didn't hear them. To assume that it fell on deaf ears is incorrect. We wouldn't continue to have public hearings and meetings with people if we weren't welcoming their opinion. I would say that from a safety standpoint, the Oxford Police Department and a group of students whose involvement we did not go and seek out, they came to us and said, hey, what happened to that? Why did it fall off the radar? Why did y'all stop talking about it? This is something that we felt was a great idea. They've explained to us numerous situations that they have from people that are walking home all the way down South Lamar because an Uber wait is so long that they're not going to wait on it. The Uber can't get through the traffic to pick them up. We find this to be, in 3 different locations, a much safer way that will be well lit, that will have cameras, and will have police officers there to make sure that things are safe in these locations. We will provide, as we've talked to both taxi drivers and Uber drivers about, a place for people to stack so that they aren't having to wait. We are removing from taxis the requirement that they can't charge more than $10, as Uber surge here constantly, and rides can be sometimes $60 during a football game weekend from the square to campus. So we are looking at ways to provide safe opportunities for rides home. I am very open to listening to any discussion about where should the locations be? How do we drive people there? We aren't saying that people have to get dropped off there. They will get dropped off in front of whatever location they are going to. This is for pickups. But what I don't appreciate is the acting like this board is going to have, the responsibility of drunk drivers going home because we've searched out a safer way to get people in taxis. And I think that is offensive, honestly. So I know that we've got one more person, Bennett, that would like to speak, and then the board will close the discussion. Okay, you want to speak as well? Okay, go ahead, Bennett.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bennett Mattson. I'm the chairman of the External Affairs Committee for the Associated Student Body, and I've been working on this whole initiative for a very long time. I kind of want to provide the student perspective to this. So I was one of the people that reached out to Mayor Tannehill and to Mark Levy about this initiative, and in it I saw a huge opportunity. An opportunity to, instead of allowing students to make bad decisions potentially, or potentially wait 50 minutes for an Uber and just deciding to walk across the Oxford community to get there, to instead create a safer, more equitable, and a more efficient place to do it. The way I see it is, right now how Ubers work, it isn't good for students. Let's say there's a freshman girl, first time drinking, first time in the square. She's over by Harrison, she decides to get an Uber. There's no lighting. If she's like intoxicated at the time, she has no real idea of where she's going. Instead of that situation where it can easily turn bad, it can easily turn into like a panicked thing and a crisis scenario for the parents when they hear about it. We can instead make it safer, make it more equitable, and make it just easier to do it. The way I see it is, one of the places that it's set up at potentially would be right in front of the parking garage. There is no better thing to see, no better incentive for a student potentially put their keys away and to not decide to get behind that wheel intoxicated. It's to see a line of good decisions before they make that one bad decision. That is what, in my opinion, what it comes down to. This is a proactive policy looking at a thing that we can make a proactive difference against. I don't want any more times where I see a close call where I'm on the square seeing some girl walk into traffic and some Uber just trying to get past. I don't want any more situations where a girl walking out of the library opens up the door of the wrong car, thinking that, yeah, that's my Uber. I don't want any more of those situations where potentially a woman, a man, no matter what, has a scenario where their safety is put at harm because we don't have a safe place to get Ubers and we don't have a safe and efficient way to do it. The way I see it, this is just a win-win. On the Uber side, it's more efficient and it's more effective. You don't have to deal with driving in the circle. You can get in, get a ride, get picked up, go out, drop them off, then come back. It's efficient, it's so much quicker than waiting through the circle. On the student side, I see it as a huge opportunity not to go in the darkness of somewhere on Jackson trying to get an Uber, or being all the way down by Harrison's having to wait for it. I see it as a way to make it more lighted, to make it more efficient, to make it safer, and to avoid some of the surges that are going on. I know, so for ASB, we passed a resolution this current semester. It passed unanimously supporting the transportation hub. Students did not get involved with this during the summer because we did not know about it. While this was going on, we were all doing internships, we were all staying at home, we were all doing work on the golf courses or something, trying to make some money, then come back to this. The reason why we're here now is that we're heard, we're part, we have a seat at the table, and we say, this is not only a great opportunity for Oxford to avoid any game day perils of people getting back and making that horrible decision to put their keys in the ignition, but this is an opportunity for student voices to be heard, for Oxford policy to be created, and for the entirety of the community to be better off for it. That is what I think it comes down to. This is a safer way to do this. This is a more efficient way to do this. And this is a way to do this that everyone benefits. Not just the Oxford community, not just the student body, not just the Uber drivers, but every single member that's in here today. I don't want any more times where I see a girl almost getting hit while she's walking through the square. I don't want any more times where a DD turns around because it's just, oh, it's about a 45-minute to wait to get to where I need to go. I don't want any more girls walking across Oxford saying, oh yeah, the Uber line, that's 50 minutes. I don't want any more close calls of someone getting an Uber when it's not lighted enough where, oh, is this really where I'm supposed to be going? And I don't want any more chances where somebody's safety is put in peril just because of the situation that it's in. That is what I really think it comes down to, and that is why I'm in support of this initiative. It's because it's safer for students, it's safer for Oxford, and safer for everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bennett.
Good evening to the board member, to this room right here. My name is Jimmy Wright. I'm a right driver taxi, my own taxis. I've been hearing a lot about Uber, a lot about taxi, I've been hearing a lot of everything. But you know, taxi was here before Uber was here. And that go way back when.
You're right.
And to be honest with you, I drove for Mr. Austin Blake, I drove for Miss Sue, I drove for Mr. Darrell, and I drove for Marty. Now I drive for myself. Thanks, good Lord. On his point, that man point right there, whatever his name might be, understand anything he said. But with him, he just got finished, made a good point. Now, it's like this here. I was talking to several people around here just this week and just a couple weeks ago. If I'm not mistaken, I think all taxi cab drivers supposed to park somewhere down, I think it's gonna be about like a 4 or 5 minute drive. I can't remember exactly I can't remember the location. But anyway, over the last couple of weeks, I sort of been putting the idea in my head. And I also seen something this past weekend that looked like it made sense, but I also found out that it might not make no sense. Over there beside the library, and right there beside the Leary.
Right.
Okay. Being that we can come in, and I'm saying this here, and I mean what I'm saying, say what I mean. If y'all was to allow us to park there, we will be closer to our customers, we'll be closer to the peoples. Now on ball game weekend, I can't help it. I can't nobody help it on ball game weekend. Everybody gonna get stuck. And you made a good point. We a taxi cab driver, our price do stay $10 on ball game. We never go up. I never raise my price. But Uber and Lyft have done that, ma'am.
We're gonna let you know.
Okay.
And part of that is because when we wrote this taxi ordinance so many years back, Oxford was 16 square miles. Well, we've annexed an additional 10 square miles, but we hadn't updated our ordinance.
Okay.
You know, a lot of places that used to be out of the city limits where you could charge more are now in the city limits. And so we want to give you the ability to charge. And what this new ordinance says, if it is passed, is that you have to post what your rate is.
Okay.
And just like Uber does on their app, it may be a crazy price, but if you agree,
that's true. That's true. But I gotta tell everybody,
and yours would be the same.
Yeah, I post mine. I can post mine and tell everybody, look, it's $10 all the way across the board, $10 per person. I never goes up, I never goes down. I don't believe in, like the library, at 12 o'clock, they went from $40 to $60 to $80. You know, I can't gouge like that. I can't gouge.
It's a posted rate if you agree to pay it.
But what I'm saying, trying to get back to my point though. If we could park there beside the library. Now leave the meter, don't go there and say reserve. Allow the meter to stay there. And for every taxi cab driver can park right there. Somebody walk out the library, they need a ride, Luba not around to be found, they take them 25, 30 minutes, we right there. Okay, we got them, we done picked them up, done dropped them off. But we the one paying for the meters. Don't cover the meters. Allow the taxi cab driver to pay for the meter. I think that's the best thing. Then the other thing that I seen for the first time, this past weekend at the ball game, over there on the other side over there where the police department had put up the green cones, allowed the Uber Lyft, because I went inside the cone to pick up. I went inside the cone to pick up. But you know, it wasn't illegal because it was legal. And I thought that was a great idea. Because the traffic kept flowing, you know, the traffic was over here and the traffic kept flowing. Now, it could have been illegal with the city ordinance.
We may still do that for drop-offs. Drop-offs are not going to be relegated to these areas, and that's really, I think, a lot of what was going on there is people dropping people off in those areas.
Okay.
The 3 spaces that we're talking about for people to be able to wait to pick up would be the parking garage, which is just, if you walk down the side of Bourrée, you'd be at the location, down by Harrison's for that end of the square, and we're looking at a third one that would that we've talked about it being behind City Grocery, Old Venice, that row in that alley. So there would be 3, so on each side of the square, the one closest to where you're talking about. But I mean, the board can discuss it. I don't know that there's a problem with you paying for parking spots and being in it now. If you're paying to be in the parking spot, you can do that.
But the only thing about
that, you don't need permission to do that.
The only thing different about that, what will hurt us, if there is not a sign up there, you know, like I said, a taxi sign or something, that will hurt us because anybody see that, okay, they just left, I can pull in right there.
Yeah.
You know, you see what I'm saying? That will hurt right there. And this taxi sign right there in front of Nelson, facing this way, y'all dismantle that, take it down, because we don't ever use that.
I know.
I mean, you know,
you're right.
I'm here to help the city, and I want the city to help me. I'm not against nobody. I stay in Water Valley, but I work at MDOT and Oxford all the time.
We need some roads.
Well, I can't do that. And that's how That's how I lead you there. But look,
I got some other stuff we need to talk about. No, I appreciate your input, and I think those are fair points. And what our goal is in changing this taxi ordinance is to reduce the fees that you have to pay, to allow you more flexibility in pricing rides, so that you're more along the lines of what Uber is. You know, the market's going to dictate that.
That's right.
If y'all get crazy with your rates and they're posted, then people just won't ride with you.
That's true.
You know, I mean, the market, I believe, is going to dictate that. And you just have to have your rate posted so that people know what they're signing on to do.
And then being a taxi cab driver, you got to be very friendly with these people. You know what? I better come through here any day or any night. And I have done this here. I have left all the way from Waller Valley to get back up here at 4 o'clock in the morning, pick up a student that was crying, about to get raped. And as soon as I walked through the door, my phone rang. My wife said, "Where you going?" I said, "I got to go back." I said, "I got a student. She one of my customers, she crying." I said, "I got to go all the way out to Highway 334. And believe me or not, I'm glad I didn't meet the state trooper, because I would have got the ticket. Because I flew up here to get that young lady. And I had begged her not to go out there from the get-go. But she didn't listen to me, but she went. But I did do what I had to do, because that's how I respect them.
Well, we're going to call it Jimmy's Taxi Cabs and Counseling.
Thank you, ma'am. Look, that's all I got to say. I do thank you all, and this is my first time. I enjoyed y'all. Y'all have a blessed night, great night. I'm going to head to Water
Thank you, Jimmy.
All right.
All right, so this was just a public hearing. Are there any other questions? We're not voting tonight. We will take all of the input to heart as we discuss this further. So are there any comments or questions from any board members? All right, then we will move on to the next item on our agenda. Thank you, Matt. Request permission to approve a parade assembly permit for the Oxford Pride Isom Center to host the Oxford Pride Parade on Saturday, April 30th from 2 until 3 in the afternoon.
Yes, ma'am. This is the parade they've previously done, same route as before.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Request permission to approve a parade assembly permit for Visit Oxford to use the City Hall Plaza area on Friday, November 26th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. for Black Friday shopping and promotional events.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Request permission to approve a parade assembly permit for Visit Oxford to have carriage rides for the Holly Jolly Holidays event on December 4th and December the 11th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Request permission for uniformed officers to work the Fox Sports Big Noon Kickoff Show on Friday, November the 19th from 11 a.m. on Saturday, November 20th until 2 p.m. at an hourly rate of $35 an hour.
Is that the radio show?
I believe they're going to do a satellite broadcast from there.
Okay, where's it going to be? Okay, good deal. All right, do we have a motion? You're so insightful.
Eastern.
Eastern. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Saban.
Thank you.
Request permission to authorize the general manager and/or mayor to sign the power supply flexibility agreement with TVA.
Hi, good evening. This power supply flexibility agreement came about because in 2019, Oxford Utilities signed the long-term partnership agreement with TVA. One of the benefits of that agreement is we're able to buy up to 5% of our wholesale power from another source other than TVA. Prior to that agreement being signed, we were required to buy 100%. So the flexibility agreement gives us the opportunity to buy solar. If a solar development was installed locally, we could buy it here ourselves, and that would promote that development because we could pay a higher rate than TVA would pay in dispersed energy prices. And so that would incentivize someone for building a solar facility, and it would give us a lower rate than our wholesale rate that we're paying for energy now. So lots of utilities in the valley, out of 153, a lot are taking advantage of this. We reviewed the agreement. It makes a lot of sense. There's no downside to the agreement, and so we'd like a permission for the mayor to sign it and us to move forward with the flexibility arrangement.
So moved.
Thank you.
All right, so that's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Rob. Request permission to authorize the Oxford Utilities Engineering Consultant, Allen and Hashel, to develop a request for qualifications for the Power Supply Flexibility Program.
Yeah, so building on that last item, the first step in this process is to, and I I've received a couple inquiries from seller developers who are looking to try to build something in the region in our territory. And the first step to try to move forward in that process is to put out an RFQ with our engineer, someone who can evaluate these companies and make sure they're not fly-by-night, and review their qualifications and review the site that they're proposing and the size to make sure it matches the size we're allowed to build or buy, which is up to, I think, 3.3 megawatts. And so this agreement with Allen and Hashel would allow them to start putting that RFQ together, to review the qualifications and set forth that project. It's a great opportunity.
Motion made to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Request for approval of a preliminary and final plat for case 2745 Royal Group LLC for Highway 30 Convenience Store Subdivision for property located at 86 Highway 30, being further identified as PPIN 36692. Mr. Parker, welcome back.
Thank you. So this property is located on a narrow 1 acre parcel on the south side of Highway 30 and directly east of Highway 30 collision. A site plan is currently under review for a service station that will include a single-story building that has a convenience store, approximately 3,300 square feet, and a commercial space of 1,500 square feet. The site is currently flat with grass and is pad ready, and the site will be accessed by an existing curb cut off of Highway 30. Wanted to note from the engineering report to the Planning Commission that MDOT was reviewing the curb cut and the access to Highway 30, and they preliminarily approved the plans, but no permits have been issued at this time. And at the May Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the request, and the engineering conditions from the Planning Commission report have been satisfied. So staff recommends approval of the preliminary and final plat with the one condition in the report. And the engineer is here as well if you have questions.
All right.
So moved.
Quick question. So they
Yeah.
do not have an MDOT permit at this time to move on to Highway 30?
We have met with MDOT for months.
You should have just gotten Jimmy. He was just here.
Yeah, sorry. But, so they won't issue the actual permit until the contractor puts up the bond for the tremendous amount of work they're making to do on Highway 30. So he doesn't want to pay for the bond until he gets an official approval letter from the city. So that's where the MDOT permit is at.
Man, that's kind of like a big circle there. So if we don't approve tonight, he didn't get the bond and they don't issue the, anyway, just play.
That's right. That's what we've been in that back and forth game for a couple months.
We understand that well.
Yes.
All right, so this request is for approval of a preliminary and final plat. Any other comments, questions?
The only other one we've got is, just remember, you are in the city, you'll have to, I know the stormwater, we just need to be very careful with that, and our runoff from sewage.
Yeah, there will be no runoff from the sewage. It's an underground drip system, so all the treated sewage from the septic tank will be dispersed underground on site, sucked into the site, where there will be no overland flow of any sewage whatsoever.
Whatever he just said.
Site sewage. Well, like I said, I'll make a motion with the,
This is not a public hearing, but we did receive your email earlier today. I'm sorry. You're welcome to say just a few words if you've got something quickly you want to summarize.
I think we summarized in the email.
Yeah.
We're concerned about the run-up into our lake, which we.
Absolutely, absolutely. I understand that concern. I think that it is something that we need to stay on top of to address, for sure. So anything else that you want to?
No, the email speaks for itself, but I think.
Yes,
we'll lay it out there, so.
Yes, it was great. It spelled it out. Thank you very much for taking the time to send that.
I got it.
Yeah, I forwarded it to Ashley, so it would be in the minutes.
so that the city will know, make sure that
Yes.
he does everything.
Yeah, thank you.
And I feel better with it being in the city. I know 5 years ago, I think one of these same plans was turned down because it was in the county. But I feel better with it being in the city. So.
All right, so we have a motion by John Morgan. Did you second? I'm sorry, couldn't you? All right, with a motion and a second, all in favor? Any opposed? 25 is removed. At 26, we've got request approval of a final plat amendment for case 2810, Lee and Sophie Hayes for Rosemont lots 7 and 8 for property located at 112 and 114 Rosemont Loop, being further identified as PPINs 34342 and 34343. Rob?
Yes, the applicant is looking to amend the plat to merge lots 7 and 8 into one lot, which will then be called Lot 7. The resulting property will meet the minimum lot size requirements for the underlying zoning, and the setbacks will be governed by the standards set forth in the Grand Oaks PUD. In the staff report, engineering noted the need for clarification on the plat about existing utilities and sidewalks, and that has been clarified on by the applicant. At the November 8th Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the request for final plat amendment for Rosemont Lot 7 and 8 with the conditions that are listed in the staff report, and staff recommends approval of the amended final plat for Rosemont Lot 7 and 8 with the 5 conditions that are listed in the memo.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Request approval of a final plat amendment for case 2811 JC Enterprises LLC for MSL Oxford Subdivision Lot 1 for property located at OUS Drive, being further identified as PPIN 36364. Robert?
Okay, the applicant is looking to amend the plat to split Lot 1 into 2 roughly 2-acre lots. The resulting property will meet the minimum lot size requirements for the underlying zoning. In the staff report, engineering provided comments related to stormwater management and sidewalks. At the November Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the request for amendment to the final plat for MSL Oxford Subdivision Lot 1 with those conditions that were in the staff report, and staff recommends approval of the amended final plat for MSL Oxford Subdivision Lot 1.
Second.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Consider supplemental agreement number 1 for additional contract time and no additional cost for the East Jackson Sidewalk Improvement Project. All those numbers. Go ahead.
Good evening. This supplemental agreement between the city and M&N will add 18 working days to their contract, $0. There were some delays on the contract that were no fault of their own. This will prevent them from going into liquidated damages and allow us to close the project out.
Motion made to
Wonderful.
approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consider the purchase of a backhoe from state contract for the Development Services Street Department.
So the street guys need a new backhoe. The ice storm this past February killed both of ours. So we budgeted $120,000 for a new one. The state contract price is about $7,000 and change over. We also had budgeted $50,000 for a service truck, which we are no longer going to be able to get. We were told that was off the table. So we'd like to shift that $7,000 and change to help us buy the backhoe.
Motion made to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? You've got a memo before you for 29A, discuss purchase of a ride-on broom sweeper for the street department.
Very same. This backhoes and sweepers were pivotal for us in removing ice and snow from the streets back in February. We right now don't have a ride-on broom sweeper. This quote came in, again, $700 over the budgeted amount, so we're again asking to take that $700 from the service truck budget and allow us to get that.
Motion made to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Consider the emergency purchase of materials not available on annual bid.
So back in August and September, we took material bids as we do every year. As part of that, we bid out chemicals that are used at our treatment plants to treat our drinking water. The chemical supplier for our chlorine has said they cannot honor their bid that they submitted to us and was submitted to you in September. Since they don't put up a bid bond for any of that, we really don't have any repercussions except just not to do business with them anymore. However, that does kind of put us in a bind because we do need chlorine. So we're asking for permission to take quotes to allow us, at least for the next 30 days, to obtain the chlorine we need. And then we're going to hopefully put out new bids and obtain bids that will actually be honored for a period less than 12 months. And if we're not able to do that, then we'll continue operating on quotes.
Is there still a supply issue with chlorine?
Tremendously so, yes.
Mm-hmm. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Consider bids received for the Lex and Corley Beth Inlet Repair Project.
We took bids last week on this project, which was to make repairs to, I think, 7 or 6 stormwater inlets on Corley Beth and Alexa Drive that are falling apart. The sidewalk is caving in. The original budgeted amount was based off of quotes that we obtained year and a half ago. Obviously, everything that's happened since then, prices, labor has gone up, and the low bid came in double that. So what we're asking to do is for the board to reject those bids and allow us to kind of go back to the drawing board and see what other things can be done.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, at 31A, I don't know whether you're doing this or Chris Carter's doing it, discuss safety closure of sidewalk on the west side of South Lamar. Come on up, Chris Carter. Thank you, John.
Seems like every time I come up here, it's bad news, and I apologize.
Well, do better.
Do better. Well, Hollis told me to come up here and make a joke, but I think Mr. Jimmy stole the show a little while ago, so I'm not even gonna try to deal with that. The building at 400 South Lamar houses the Oxford Gourmet and the Buff City Soaps, I believe is what it's called. There's your pretty picture. I noticed today that there's some separation of that brick facade. That picture right there, I believe, is looking towards the square, so it'd be on the south end of the building. I have no idea what's going on with that, to be honest with you. What I do know is the bricks look to be pulling away from the structure of the building. It got some balcony, excuse me, that was a ugly word, I apologize. Some awnings attached to those bricks that I suspect are pulling.
See that, it's got those metal.
Yeah, you can see those arms coming up.
Awnings over the doors that.
But the crack.
They sure look good. Don't look like they're doing the building any favors.
Well, and I don't know that that's what's doing it. That's certainly what it looks like to me. The crack.
Those were added though to do the awnings, correct?
Those awnings were added.
I mean, the brick was put in there for the awnings.
That brick's been there.
Okay.
It's always been a brick building.
It was painted.
I understand that.
Red, but. I
just remember them doing brickwork when they did it.
Well, and I honestly can't remember, to be honest with you. What we've done, and just in abundance of caution, we closed the sidewalk right in front of that building, just diverted pedestrians out into the 4 or 5 parking places right there until such time as they can get an engineer to come over there, assess it, see what's going on with that. If he comes back and says it's fine as is, that's great.
Yeah.
What do you do about access to those 3 businesses?
We're still going to allow access. You're just not gonna be able to walk down that sidewalk. You're gonna have to get out in the parking lot and shoot straight into those businesses that are over there. I think we're comfortable with that. May ask them to do some kind of a prop underneath the awnings, just.
Is there an engineer that can look at it quickly so that we aren't keeping them from?
Well, yes, ma'am. I'm sure there is.
He's booked up in Oxford.
I'm sure there is. That's.
Yeah, just on them to find somebody quickly.
Their responsibility to find somebody.
Well, hopefully they can find somebody very quickly so that we can get an answer and get them back open if it's safe to do so. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Just wanted y'all to be aware of that. That just happened late this afternoon. All right, consider an interlocal agreement with Lafayette County for debt service for the TIF bonds related to the Colonnade Crossing TIF plan. Bart.
You've got a copy of the resolution and interlocal agreement in front of you. It's the same interlocal agreement that Lafayette County approved yesterday. It sets forth what Lafayette County will pay us to retire the service, to make the debt service payments on the TIF bonds.
Questions?
I don't have any. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consider an MOA with MDOT for improvements on Molly Bar Road and Highway 30 is required for the Colonnade Crossing TIF plan.
This MOA allows the developer as an agent of ours to do work on Highway 30. I do want to point out a couple of issues that bring your attention on page 4 of the MOA. Under B5, it says it's the ultimate responsibility of the city to ensure that their facility is constructed to meet all state and federal requirements. Not a real issue with that, but it is, these are plans that MDOT will approve, that MDOT will review, is a project that MDOT required of the developers, not a project, remember, this is not one that was born by us, it was one that MDOT required. We just wanted you to realize what's in the MOA. Under D on page 6, it's an indemnity clause where the city agrees to hold the Highway Commission harmless. Again, it has been in other agreements that we've agreed to. It is allowed under that code section 65-175, but it is allowed by saying you may require that. You're not required to, but you may. Just 2 things I wanted to point out to you in the MOA. If you approve or not, it's up to you. I just wanted you to know those 2 clauses are in the MOA.
But the number 5, B5, ultimate responsibility lies with the city, but then district engineer will be available for consultation. On our other roundabouts, they had to be there every day. I mean, they were.
And I don't know, I didn't go back and pull that other MOA. I don't know if by the MOA they were required to be there. They agreed to do that to actually save us some cost to the roundabout. They had inspectors there on site to hold that.
And to help it move so quickly.
Right.
They had to have people on site. I mean, I don't know, I don't like MDOT abdicating their responsibility to us to be responsible for their roadway that the plans they are gonna sign off on.
I mean, it's their plans, it's everything.
I wouldn't go as far as say it's their plans. They did their requirements are what caused the plans to be drafted or for the design to be done. I believe that, I don't know if they had any hand in recommending that it be 3 roundabouts. Or I don't know if that came from the developer's engineer. I do know MDOT ultimately agreed that the 3 roundabouts worked and that this MOA revolves around those 3 roundabouts.
If we built this on our own and just decided to do it, we would still have to make it sure it followed state and federal guidelines, right? That obligation is on us regardless.
Absolutely.
It's just the wording that they've changed.
Sure, it's passing the potato.
Yeah.
You know, I think it just stuck in my craw that they caused us to be put in place, and then they're saying, but you're going to be responsible.
Yeah, sure, of course.
So if we take that out, does it kill?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
What are your thoughts?
We've gone back and forth on behalf of the city and MDOT in these conversations, but one important thing to consider is that the next agreement, the development agreement, obligates my client to do these things in accordance with those codes and standards and regulations, or he won't get reimbursed, so he's got a lot of risk there.
Yeah. With the exception of that hold harmless clause on the, I don't think we're gonna require him to indemnify us and MDOT.
Right.
So MDOT passes the buck to us, we pass the buck to the developer, and
I guess we
now
can.
we're back to a big circle again.
Yes, we could require the developer to indemnify us. Not sure if that provision is part of the development reimbursement agreement as it's drafted.
Again, a developer making improvements to an MDOT roadway, fronting the money for the taxpayers of Oxford to then pay them back for improvements to an MDOT roadway that MDOT goes, and now here, it's all on you. So, I don't know that it's a deal breaker. I think that we all agree that we are going to make sure that it meets all of those regulatory requirements, and it's going to be checked off at every turn. It just, again, frustrating that that's the way MDOT operates, but I don't think we should be surprised at this point.
What's it cost us besides oversight from an engineer?
Well, J-Dub will have oversight.
Yeah,
Right, but I'm just saying that that
If they say something's wrong with it, then they can come back to us and say, y'all didn't do that like the plan, and either we've got to correct it or take over the maintenance of it, or.
And then what we would do in that instance, we would, I think, we go to our attorney and have our attorney take whatever action required to make the developer correct it. The expense of our attorney would be the expense to us.
I think the city's covered on the long run. Yeah.
As long as we're covered and we don't have it out of pocket, I don't see it move forward.
All right,
Motion to approve.
Second.
all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Chris, for working on that so hard. First reading, public hearing, and potential vote on a proposed ordinance amending Chapter 34.
You skipped the development reimbursement agreement. Three, that was piece 2, so piece 3 is number.
Okay, that was number 30.
Thank you. That was 33, so now we're on 34.
Consider the development reimbursement agreement for the Colonnade Crossing TIP plan.
Again, recommend approval, unless you wanted to add an indemnity clause where the developer had to indemnify the city to cover that provision in the MOA.
I'll make that motion with that addition.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now, the first reading, public hearing, and potential vote on a proposed ordinance amending Chapter 34, Article 3, sound of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Oxford.
I was asked to take a look at the sound ordinance, fix some sort of minor ticks in there where it said may not. We changed things to shall not. We sort of cleaned up the language. Overall, I think the intent is generally the same. The first substantive change is at page 5. There is already defined a responsible party who's supposed to be in charge of the loudspeakers at an outside entertainment venue. And we made sure that that responsible party is explicitly stated and appointed under the ordinance. There are 2 or 3 references to where the mayor and board of aldermen can waive some things. We made it clear that where they can, they don't have to. It's in your sole discretion. Too often you are called upon to waive ordinances or waive provisions of ordinances as if you must, and this is very clear that you must not, you don't have to. Changed a little bit about dogs and barking back to closer to the original dog barking language instead of having it have a decibel measurement. We've never had that. The habitual unreasonable barking of dogs is good enough to call the police for that and always has been. And Rusty said, we don't send our decibel measurements out for dog barks. So we pulled that back out, simplified it. At page 7 is where we specifically added that all businesses which operate sound equipment or produce any other sound regulated under this ordinance shall appoint a responsible party as defined above to make sure they're in compliance with the ordinance that they're operating under. That we made clear that the hours of operation, which we had stated in there, we said you may operate under this sound ordinance and outside business for these hours, but we didn't say you couldn't operate outside of those hours. So we cleaned up that language a little bit to make sure it was prohibitive. We also said that outdoor entertainment venues, assuming they fall under our alcohol ordinance that also requires a manager on site, that both the responsible party and the manager are responsible to ensure the ordinance is complied with. And then we said under the sections regarding historic urban centers, business, commercial, and residential areas, that we're talking about businesses, responsible parties, or individuals as may be the case. And I think that's mostly what we captured. We looked at adding a section that said if you go over a certain decibel level, you're automatically getting arrested. And the police, after a lot of discussion about this, the police department said, look, we have the right of arrest related to an ordinance. If we're out there all night long, the night before, with this responsible party or manager, and we walk out there and the first call doesn't hit 90, but it's 85, and they're just flagrantly violating again, they're very likely to make an arrest. And if we instead put a minimum arrest standard, then it looks as if they can't make that arrest otherwise. And they use their judgment in that all the time for all sorts of ordinances. And if you just put a decibel level, this causes arrest, it sort of weakens their authority to make those decisions on whether an arrest is needed for something that may not be a specific decibel level. But if they've been out there once or twice that night, that's probably what's going to happen. That's why the responsible party and the manager are both listed in here specifically as being responsible for that volume. Anyway, those are the changes. We can talk about them however you want, but this is I think it's noticed as a first reading and a hearing. Is that right?
It's noticed as a first reading, a public hearing, and a potential vote.
Yeah,
Potential.
Yep.
Yeah, so board questions, comments, input?
And is there anybody who wants to be heard?
Any comments from y'all? Is there anyone here who is to speak, as this is a public hearing? All right. So what are your,
Brian, you good?
Yeah, I'm satisfied.
Good.
My question was on the page 11, it is 3472D. What happens if they come about and in other words, the particular situation I was accounting for was they come out, they turn it down, they leave, and before they can get back on university, they turn it back up. What happens, and I think Pope addressed that, they can arrest them on that first one if they desire, if it's too high. And so it's a judgment call, and I think that D is fine. It doesn't limit, they can cease and tell them you're done for the day whenever.
And I like that an arrest doesn't have to be made for them to cease operations.
That's right.
It does not. And I'm
Does not.
sorry, but I didn't mention that major change. Let me give the speaker. We did ask, we changed C on page 11 that Brian's talking about that says a law enforcement officer and accountable official. We don't have a noise ordinance official, and until we do, I didn't like having that in there. Upon issuance of a notice of violation, this ordinance may instruct the manager of the business appointed under the alcohol ordinance, but that manager has general responsibilities, or responsible party as defined under this section, to reduce or stop all sound or noise. Well, it always basically said that we could tell them to turn it down. But the next section says if they fail to come into compliance with this section upon instruction by a law enforcement officer under section C above, then the business must cease all operations for the remainder of that business day. So you come in, you tell them to turn it down. Maybe they give them a warning. Maybe if it's habitual, they give them a ticket that first time and say turn it down. If they don't turn it down and they've given you a ticket or they've warned you, they can shut you down for the night for ignoring the request. So in other words, a business is not likely to choose to pay the $1,000 fine for the ticket, because if you do that and keep the music up, you're going to get shut down.
But when you say shut down, you're not talking about shutting the music off. You're talking about shutting.
Cease all operations, right. I mean, if you have demonstrated to the police that you cannot come into compliance with our ordinance that evening, they're going to shut you down. And that really is what the demonstration is. If you've been told to come into compliance, you refuse or unable, then they're pulling the plug.
Yeah, their first offense. I mean, it's up to the discretion.
Yeah, because I mean, they can, if you look at C,
It does.
they can tell them to stop all sound without shutting them down.
Right, that's what that's one of the issues.
So they can tell them to
It
stop.
specifically says if they fail to come into compliance.
Okay.
Shall the person, manager, business fail to come into compliance? So they've got to be.
Basically, I mean, they can tell them to turn it down, they can come back and tell them to turn it off.
Yeah.
And I
And if they
think
come
if
back-
they're using good judgment, I think you're gonna have a lot bigger, more of a rowdy crowd. I'm not talking about the bar owners or whoever, I'm talking about the actual people. If you tell them they got to leave, turning the music off, I would hope would be the first,
Well, and that's right.
the most likely thing to do first.
And we deal with this with fire occupancy all the time. We clear the place out until they can demonstrate that they can comply with the fire occupancy ordinance.
Yeah. All right.
so how do y'all want to move forward? We advertised it as a potential vote. Do you want to wait 2 weeks? Are you all ready to vote tonight?
How long do you have to wait before it goes into effect?
30 days.
30
Yeah.
days? Well, then I guess it really doesn't matter if we vote now, not, because not much is gonna happen, I guess, before outside, that is, before the end, is it?
Just up to y'all.
I'm fine with voting, though.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, with a motion and second, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. That will go into effect in 30 days. Consider a proposal from Elliott and Britt Engineering for services related to City Hall Pocket Park.
And we'll do as much of this project in-house as we can, but this is a not-to-exceed proposal of $36,240. It'll be based on their hourly rates. We will need them for some design, but for their instrumentation, for their testing, and for all their construction services.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? I'd like the board to consider an executive session.
Motion made.
All in favor? Any opposed? The board will now consider an executive session.